Hey everybody, Tag Life Done Free. Hey, today I did an interview with Jason from Kentucky Sustainable Living, and they're a group over there in Kentucky who are doing a lot of the same things that are going on, in my local neck of the woods. I love doing these kinds of things because I get an interesting perspective on the things that go on around the country and in these type of movements. So if you're interested in learning how they do things, come on, let's check it out. Well, hey everybody, we are here today with another homestead. I recently came across a brand new channel out of Kentucky called Kentucky Sustainable Living. And so I actually reached out to Jason and asked him if he'd come on and give us a little bit of talk. They're doing some really cool things down there in reference to community and things that I think all of us should be out there doing. So I guess just to kind of start, Jason, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about you and what you're doing?
Hey everybody, Tag, thanks for having me on. I'm Jason with Kentucky Sustainable Living. We're a Kentucky-based group. We're a group that's based in Kentucky. Me and a few other guys, we started the group. We kind of saw the need of, hey, we see where the world's going. We want to have a group that's based in Kentucky that are actually our neighbors that we can rely on. So we started that group with just a few guys that we knew already that were all across the state, and we're like, we've got to find a way to get more members in here. So the easiest thing was start a Facebook page. So we started a Facebook page with it. Right now we're up to a little over 800 members on the Facebook page. There's another part of the group. It's a group where we go through a short background and vetting process that we do. There's not 800 members in there yet. We'd love to have 800 members, but our group, it spans all the way across the state from east to west, north to south. And what we've got is just a group of like-minded individuals that think the same way as us. We do meetings and events and stuff like that. We'll do medical training, solar workshops and stuff like that.
Yeah, So Jason, what made you do it? What made you take the leap and say, hey, we need to come together as community?
I'd started out about 12 years ago, more into the prepping and just beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, like how everybody else starts. You know, I've got my pew-pews, I've got my food, I've got my medical stuff, and it's like I can weather this storm, but it's the whole thing. I've got enough stuff for me and my family to last out, but the big part of it is lone wolf. You're not ever going to do it in a lone wolf scenario. You know, you and just your family are not going to last very long. You've got to have a whole support system and a whole community to help you out. You know, just your family cannot provide everything that you need in a life situation, period. You've got to look at, you know, the kids need shoes. You've got to have somebody that can make shoes for your kids as they grow. And going along with that, yeah, I can store a year's supply of food, but on day 366, you're screwed. You've got nothing to do. So if you don't have a way to resupply yourself and your family, you're done for. Once you crack that first can of freeze dried food and say, you know, you've started the clock on your life, is pretty much the way it is. So I looked at it as we need a community of people. Not everybody's a specialist. Nobody can be a specialist in everything. Mm-hmm. So we need that community, people that can help us, people we can trade with. And, you know, I don't know everything about growing a garden. My garden sucked this year. I'll just be flat out honest. And there's a video for that. It's bags of disappointment. And it hurt to put that video up. But I'm like, I want people to see that, you know, it sucked. And I was going to put grow bags suck, but then people would be like, oh, my grow bags did great. But yeah, my grow bags sucked this year.
Well, I think it's interesting. You know, I think a lot of people think they can store some seeds and when the time comes, be a gardener.
Yeah.
That is not how that works.
Oh, yeah. I had the conversation with one of my fraternity brothers. It was probably 6 months ago, and I was talking to him about the food shortages, and he said, I've got a bunch of seeds tucked away. And I said, that's cool. I said, what if you can't get food in October? I said, those seeds ain't going to be worth a shit. Yeah. And he's like, well, he said, I've got the seeds. I'm just going to throw them out when I need it. And I'm like, that's cool. But like I said, if it's October, and even if it's a good time to plant those seeds, you're probably 60 days on a harvest. I was like, what are you going to do in those 60 days? Well, I don't really know. And I'm like, I tried to talk to him. And finally I was like, screw this. I've got other stuff to do.
Yeah. We've been gardening now for, I want to say 17 years, 18 years, something like that. And I can tell you, our first garden that we ever put in, all those years ago, we got fruit off of it, but it sucked. It wasn't good in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
The ground's got to, mature and you get better and better at it and understanding what, blossom rot is, or what this what these eggs are, or what, when the leaves curl this way, what does it mean? Exactly. There's a lot of learning to do. So you're not just going to plant seeds in the ground and have a garden. That's not how that works.
No, exactly. And I will tell you, I am better at raising meat than I am at raising vegetables. That's for darn sure. Yeah. So,
well, let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about what's going on your farm, and then we'll get back to the community. But tell us what you got going on.
We've got a small farm here. We've got right at 8 acres. We raise chickens, sheep. We've got Juliana pigs, because just on a small acreage, it's like we can't have commercial breed pigs because they will make the whole thing a moonscape, no matter how much and how fast you rotate them on that acreage. And then we've got a few cows. So we process our pigs, beef, and chicken, and do that. We do it all at our place for our own consumption. And I've had 2 real good mentors that have helped me through that. I used to deer hunt a lot. I just don't have time to deer hunt anymore, but I would process my own deer. So I had some background in it, but I was like, a cow and a pig, that's something a little different. So I had 2 real good mentors. They're members of the group. They live about an hour and a half away from me. They're pretty well off grid, and I would say 99% of what they eat, most of it they grow as far as meat wise. And she told me, she said, come out. She said, we're butchering a pig. And I was like, I will be there in about an hour and a half. Yeah. So that was the introduction to it. She's taught me all this. We butchered a steer at my house, and she came over. She said, you need this and this to have. And I was like, yes, ma'am, I will have it. And they showed up early in the morning, and a couple other friends came over, and we put the steer was breathing that morning, and he was frozen that afternoon.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you got to love that. So you got animals, you got a garden, you were a prepper, so you put a bunch of stuff away, and you got those things squared away. And you had said earlier in the conversation prior to us, recording here tonight, that you also are into radio.
Yes, I'm pretty good into ham radio. I'm working down at the shop. I've got my shop that I use for my business, but fun stuff takes into the shop. We're building a ham room down there, and doing that. So we'll have all our ham radio stuff down in the shop. It's going to be run all off solar, and I was wiring it this afternoon for all the solar stuff. And we'll probably this weekend maybe put some solar panels up, get some drywall up, and have it looking like something here in the next week or 2.
Yeah, you'll have to shoot a video about all that.
I plan on it. Oh, and also I forgot another thing I was doing. The stinking our sow, our little Juliana sow, went into labor this morning.
Nice.
So I'm going to go check on her here in a little while.
Yeah.
As of a little bit ago, she had 2 babies out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to leave Mama alone, let her do her thing, and go check on her later.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how nature will kind of take care of itself?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. And like nature taking care of itself. We've got 2 livestock guard dogs that stay with the animals all the time. They're Anatolian and Great Pyrenees mix.
Yep.
They have not been formally trained on anything. But 2 years ago, we had a ewe that was having a little bit of problems giving birth. I went out there and was watching. One of the dogs would go and set about 15 to 20 feet away from that ewe. The other dog would make a huge big circle perimeter around and make sure everything was okay. It would come and sit down by the dog that was setting. The dog that was setting would get up and make another patrol around. I was like, they went to Ranger school or something when I wasn't here. I was like, somebody trained them. I never told them anything to do, nothing like that. But it was like instinct. They had a perimeter around that ewe because they knew something was going wrong and they didn't want anything to come in there.
Yeah.
And I watched it for like 30 minutes going, those dogs are smarter than most of the people I talk to every day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But I think that's a great story, you know, and I think it's interesting how instincts are so powerful if we can just listen to them. And I think that's true for humans too.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's screaming. People are screaming, you know, that inside voice, get out of the system, you know,
yes.
Get out of this system. Don't support it. And like you said, starve the thing out. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's the only peaceful way I could come up with it, is to just starve the beast, to just put your life in a way where you just take it away.
Yeah.
I don't know another way to do it, you know, with at least peacefully. I don't know another way to do it. And so I'm going to continue on my rants about starving the beast, I can assure you.
Yeah. And one of the big things that I've come to the conclusion, and I listen to a lot of the big names on YouTube and podcasts and stuff, and the biggest thing I brought away from it is don't worry about what's going on. Keep an eye on it, like what's going on over in Europe and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say, you know, Ukraine and Russia and all that, but don't worry about what's going on over there. You know, if they do something over there, there's not a damn thing either one of us can do about it.
That's right.
But if there's something going on 5 miles down the road from your house, man, you can handle and do something about that. Mm-hmm. So worry about that stuff and make sure your area of influence is right there, the place that you can do it. Worry about what's going on there. Don't worry about what's going on in DC. You know, keep an eye on it, but don't lose sleep on it, because there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that, you know, it's a huge shit sandwich and people are worried about the peanuts.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, build your community, grow some more food, get another animal, you know, sharpen your skills, learn how to weld something.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, build your skills. That's a big thing. Have some kind of quality skills that you can offer to somebody and stuff like that. I mean, I'm a big fan. I went to college and graduated from college. I've got a construction management degree and I took civil engineering classes. I use very little of that stuff. I mean, I'm a general contractor. I'm slapping tile, patching drywall, doing all kinds of stuff like that. I have never laid out a road like we did in school.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm big on the trades, you know, go to school and be an electrician or a plumber. Hell, those guys are charging good money to come out and do stuff, and they make good money. They earn it, but go get a trade and some valuable skill instead of sitting behind. Everybody wants to be a banker and sit behind a desk and wear their pretty little shoes and their khakis and go play golf. And it's like, if the grid goes down, what's your thing? You're not going to be writing bank loans for people. So,
you know, I've got two older boys, Jason, one who's 29 and one who's 25. And I told them that I would help them through college if they wanted to go to college. But before that, they had to go to trade school. So I made both of them go through 2 years of trade school. And then on to college to chase whatever dream they wanted to go chase because of that reason.
Yeah. And I had a boy a couple of years ago. He was a senior in high school, and he came to work with me. He was just doing labor. I was teaching him stuff and everything. He told me, he said, I want to go work for this one factory, and they make Ford chassis and frames. And he said, I want to work there and do industrial maintenance. And I was like, that's cool. And he was going to go to the trade school here, like a 2-year thing. He called me. He had quit with me because school started back, and he'd help me every now and then. He called me and he's like, man, you'll never guess what happened. I was like, tell me. He goes, that company did a job fair at our high school. He said, they hired me on the spot. They started this, he's 18 then. He said, when I graduate, he said, I'm going to start, I think he was going to make $20 an hour. And this has been several years ago, $20 an hour. They're paying for my school. I go to school 3 days a week, work for them 2 to 3 days a week, and I can have as much overtime as I want to. And I'm like, dude, you're straight out of school making at least 40 grand a year and getting your school paid for.
Yeah.
I'm like, if it's any other 18-year-old, they're working at McDonald's making minimum wage with no future.
Yeah.
So
that's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, trade schools are great. And I talked to him about a year after he had been working there, and he said, I love it. He said, it's great. He said, I'll have another year to finish school up. And he said, then I'm just going to work for them. And he said, I'll be making real good money.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
trade school.
I've got a really good friend who's a welder for Cat. He builds
Really?
the big buckets for like the big, like the big machines. He builds the buckets. He's a welder. Dude, that guy makes like $75 an hour welding buckets.
Oh, yeah. One of my uncles worked for, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Remember, what was it? One of the crane companies. Daggone, I'll think of it. But he worked for Detrex, is what it was. He worked for Detrex, and he was a welder, and he welded all that big crane equipment and stuff like that. He made a real good living doing it. Yeah. So welders can make some darn good money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think finding skills is big. My story. I come from the corporate world, and when I came and decided to come live this life, man, I had to learn how to be a plumber. I had to learn how to be an electrician. I had to learn how to, if you'd have told me when this started that, all right, Tag, you're going to have a pond, a well, and 7,700 gallons of rainwater, and you're going to pipe them all into your house independently, where each faucet could use a different water on demand, however you choose it, I'd be like, no way. No way.
Get out of here. That's a fairy tale.
Yeah, it ain't happening. But Bud, we right now as we speak, my wife is washing clothes with rainwater in the laundry room and doing dishes with well water in the kitchen as we speak right this very second.
Oh yeah, and that stuff like that is like what I like to figure out.
Yeah.
So that would be a puzzle that I would sit down there and I'm like, we need to do this, we need to do that, and I would stay on that thing till I figured it out, and I'd call you and be like, Tag, I got it figured out. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So, what? I grew up. I mean, my background. I grew up with my parents. My dad worked for IBM and retired from IBM. But every house my parents have lived in, he has built from pretty well scratch. Some of the stuff he didn't do. He didn't brick the house himself. The house they live in now, he didn't brick it and didn't frame it. But pretty much everything else, the trim work, floors, all that stuff. So I grew up knowing how to do that stuff. And when something broke, when, the kitchen sink was leaking, we didn't call the plumber. Dad tore it apart, found out what he needed, went to Lowe's, picked it up and came back and fixed it. Yep. So that's the way we are at my house. Some stuff, it takes a little longer to get done. My wife fusses about that sometimes, but I'm like, it will get done. We're not hiring somebody to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we on the farm here, I did everything except I paid to have the septic done. I paid to have the well dug, and I paid to have the Mitsubishi mini splits installed.
Yeah.
Everything else I did myself. But the reason the other ones, I would have loved to do them myself, but just the tools and the equipment it takes to dig 100-foot well, I'm not going to go buy that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I could have, but no.
Oh, yeah, and some of the stuff, your HVAC stuff, some of that's got specialty equipment that you're going to use one time, and it's like there's no reason to buy that.
Yeah.
So, but if it's stuff that you're going to use, at least once a week, buy that stuff. I mean, like my tile saw is well over $1,000 for a tile saw.
Yeah.
But I use that thing all the stinking time, and it's paid for itself time and time again.
Yeah.
So, and my dad, when I was younger, in my generation, when you grew up and you got your car, your truck, you had to put a big stereo system in it and just bang the windows out of it. I bought a radio for my truck, put it in, all this, and I was like, that's cool. My dad told me, he goes, how much was that? So I told him, he said, you know how many hours you got to work to do that, to pay for that? I was like, that thing ain't near as cool anymore.
Yeah.
But I could come home with the newest Craftsman socket set or whatever it was, and he would never fuss at me about it.
Yeah.
He was like, you can make some money and do something with that. He said, it's a hell of a lot more valuable than that stupid radio you put in your truck.
Yeah.
So, but the man never fussed at me for buying any kind of tools ever.
Yeah, well, I'm a big tool guy too. I look for an excuse to buy a tool.
Oh yeah. Now I'm a Milwaukee buff. I I love Milwaukee tools, and it's hard to go into Home Depot and not walk out with something Milwaukee.
Yeah,
So
I'm telling you, but I bought recently their worm drive saw.
oh, you like it?
The battery powered worm drive saw. And oh, I love it.
Really?
But I can put a 8 amp hour battery in that thing and cut all day long.
Really?
It's just as good as any of my skill worm drive saws or rigid worm drive saws.
Oh yeah.
I love that saw.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, I mean it's badass.
Now see, all my cordless tools are Milwaukee, but my miter saws are all DeWalt because I don't like Milwaukee's miter saws. I like DeWalt's better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. You walk in the trailer and it's all red most everywhere, but then there's these yellow and black things sitting there, and it's like they're the little bastard children sitting over there.
Yeah. But because I live off grid, I've kind of transitioned everything to battery powered. So I have a battery powered table saw, Milwaukee, battery powered compound miter saw, Milwaukee. I've just totally gone battery powered to pretty much because I live off grid. And charging the battery is pretty easy.
And that was one of the things I was going to talk about at Self-Reliance Festival for some of the people is as far as battery operated stuff, it's a lot easier to charge those batteries because you can charge those batteries and have a bank of power sitting there as opposed to running a generator or something like that. That generator's got to run 100% of the time because you're not going to go over on your miter saw and make a cut and then turn the generator off and go put that piece of trim in and then come back, start the generator again to make another cut.
Yeah.
But while your generators, or if you got your generator running, you can charge all your batteries and then shut your generator down. Or if you're running on solar, you can charge all those batteries off your solar panels.
Yep.
So, it's amazing. It's amazing what they're doing with battery operated stuff now.
Yeah, I was very hesitant on buying that saw because I'm thinking there's just no way it's going to have the same power. But I'm telling you, I can take a 2x6 and rip, 10-foot long 2x6 and rip it from one side to the other just as easy as I could with my, my skill worm drive saw. I mean, it does the same job. And because I've got a big piece of property and where my wife's a beekeeper. And so all the way on the other side of the property is the apiary where she raises her bees. So I'm always over there constructing something. It's so nice to grab a drill, grab a saw, grab a whatever, grab a couple batteries, and over there I go.
Oh, yeah.
So nice.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Like my job trailer, I've got an enclosed job trailer. We kitted it out with everything. I built wood shelves in there to where everything's there. I can back it up to a job site, plug into their power. And as soon as I plug in, all my batteries are charging, everything's sitting there charging. Hell, I've got a microwave in there. We can heat food up, do whatever we want to. So it's pretty slick. One of the guys, he's like, you could live out of that thing, couldn't you? I was like, if I had to, I probably could.
Yeah.
So
don't want to, but I could.
Yeah, it wouldn't be real fun.
Yeah. Well, Jason, you were just talking about the Self-Reliance Festival. And for those of you who don't know, the Self-Reliance Festival is being put on by John from SOE and Nicole from Living Free in Tennessee on October the 1st and 2nd in Camden, Tennessee. And Jason here is going to be speaking, correct?
Yes, I won't be talking. I will be there. I'll be there all weekend. I'm actually talking Sunday afternoon is when I'm scheduled. We're going to do essentially homesteading construction skills. So I'm going to go over some basic skills that homesteaders need. Really, anybody that owns a house should have, some basic stuff. I'm probably not going to go into great detail. Yeah, you need a sanitary tee for this, and you got a vent with this size. It's going to be some basic stuff, carpentry skills, some plumbing skills, electric skills that you need on building a homestead. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're going to go over with that.
Yeah. A guy once showed me when I was in high school how a 3-4-5 worked.
Yeah.
But it changed my whole life. One of the single best things I've ever learned in my whole life in reference to building something.
Oh, yeah. And I used that Sunday. I was framing out for the radio room down in the shop. And I was like, I want to make sure this is square. And you use 3-4-5. And it works. It's EMP proof.
That's right.
Mean, you can use that no matter what's going on. It's never going to change.
That's right.
So no matter, even if the poles shift and everything like that, 3-4-5 is still going to work.
That's right. It's not dependent.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's super cool. I'm looking forward to visiting with you when I get down there. I speak, I think at 2 o'clock or 2:30 on Saturday, something like that. They haven't sent me all of it, but I believe that's kind of where it is. Well, hey, let's get back to your homestead real quick. So tell us the future plans. What do you got coming?
Future plans. I've got a little bit more fencing to do. We've got one part of the property that we're not using too much right now. That's just when I got to this property, it was all pretty much, it'd been grown up for about 45 years or better. So it was nothing, cedar trees and wild rose bushes, briars, poison ivy. So we've been slowly clearing it out to cut the road in. We had a dozer in here 2 days just to cut the road and the driveway in to build the house. But we've been slowly clearing it, fencing everything off. And I've got one spot left that I've got to fence off. And then we're going to let the sheep and the cows kind of work in there and clear a lot of it out. The sheep are awesome. Everybody says goats are what you want to eat brush. I tell you, my Katahdin sheep will eat the crap out of everything too. I mean, they eat like a goat. Yeah. So that, and they don't have stinking horns to get caught in the fence every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And they probably don't climb on your cars as much either.
No, we've had a couple goats here at the place, and when my wife and kids loved them, they were mean to me. Like, I would turn around and stupid things and headbutt me. I'm like, we're not having this crap. Yeah. So the kids were at school, my wife was at work, and the 2 goats ended up getting sold that day. So everybody comes home, and they're like, where are the goats? I was like, they went to live with somebody else in another county over. And, I called hell for about a week, but I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, good for you. Well, what talking about your community and the things going on there, what's the future plans there?
We're growing every day. We're introducing new members in to the community every day. We've got new members coming in. We've got people from all walks of life. We've got retired military guys. We've got nurse practitioners. We've got nobody's admitted to being a lawyer yet that's in the group, but they might one of these days. If we get them drinking, they might admit that they're actually a lawyer. But and all walks of life. We got guys that work in factories. We got guys in construction. We got retired people, all that. So we're growing every day. This coming up in 2 weekends, coming up in 2 weekends, we're having a small little get together at my place. We're going to have a guy come speak about, he's lived off grid in Alaska and lives off grid in Kentucky now, and was on a Lone TV show. So he's going to come talk to us. He's going to come talk to us about living off grid and his experience on doing alone. And then we're going to have a lunch break and talk to everybody. And then we're going to do essentially, I'm calling it Solar 101 class for everybody. We're going to have a couple small solar setups that everybody can put their hands on, see the individual components, touch it, feel it, figure it out. And then they can go back to their homesteads and put some small solar systems together. So yeah. That's one of the things we're doing. We've got with our group, we've split the state up into 7 communities. So there's 7 communities. Each community has a leader that takes care of talking to the members, doing stuff like that. And then he's the one that's in charge of setting up meetings for the community members. We try to have one once a month in each community, and then usually about 3 to 4 big state events to where everybody from the state comes in, and we'll usually do it like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a Self-Reliance Fest, but we don't have 700 or 800 people there. Right. So, well, and everybody knows each other. It's a smaller venue. The last one we had Friday, we did kind of a Homestead Security. One of our guys that is a retired ranger, he did a Homestead Security and stuff you should think about on your homestead, on how to keep it. Yeah, how to keep it secure. We had to knock him off, and we're like, not everybody needs razor wire around their place. And he was like, come on, everybody needs razor wire. And I'm like, not everybody needs razor wire. That's not the solution to every problem. But he did that. He did a short little class on Homestead Security. We had dinner. Everybody sat around the fire, hung out, sat in the shop, talked to each other, stayed up later than we should have. Then Saturday, we did some medical training we had a couple nurse practitioners that did some medical training for us. With the medical training, everybody wants to be the tack cool guy where, they got their blowout kit and they pull their blowout kit off, they throw their tourniquet on and then get back in and start fighting. And it's like, that's cool and all, but what do you do after you've got an injury? And it surprised some of the people. They're like, you don't want to do all the cool stuff? I'm like, yeah, touch on the cool stuff, but let's go to what happens a week after. If you've cut your leg with a chainsaw, what happens a week after that? You've got the wound care to take care of. Not a lot of people think past step one on that, right? Because there's, step 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. You've got to clean that wound every day. New bandages, all that stuff. So we covered, I called it steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 is what we covered on the medical. And then Sunday we did a lot of stuff on radio stuff, on all our comms and stuff like that. So we kind of cover the gamut. And if somebody wanted to talk about something, yeah, we've got time. Jump up there at the presentation table and start talking to us about this. And it's a good time, especially the state events, because then you get everybody from the state coming out, and we get to spend 3 days with each other as opposed to just a Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I know that it's Kentucky Sustainable Living. So I know you're not that far from Tennessee. Can somebody from Tennessee come join you guys?
We've got one guy in Tennessee. We've got one guy in Tennessee. It's because he's friends. He's a retired military. He's a retired military guy, and one of the guys in the group is like, "We really need this guy in here. He can be our Southern lookout." So that's what we call him. He's our Southern lookout.
Yeah.
Possibly, I would have to talk to some of the other guys and see how they felt about it. If they're way down in Memphis or way south Tennessee, probably not. But if they're sitting, right on the Tennessee line or something, yeah, we could probably talk to them, make an exception on that. Yeah. But for all it's worth, hell, I could take those guys. If there's a few of them in Tennessee, I can say, hey, this is how we did it. Mm-hmm. Follow the model, and it's worked for us. So because we went from like 3 or 4 guys to what we are now, and it's just like boom, boom, boom.
So, whether it's someone living in Kentucky wanting to join what you guys got going, or maybe somebody from another state who wants to duplicate what you guys have already done, where can they get a hold of you, Jason?
Y'all can get a hold of me on my YouTube channel. It's Kentucky Sustainable Living. You can send me an email there, or you can drop a comment in one of those. We're trying to grow the YouTube channel and get some more subscribers on it. But as of right now, I can read every comment. I can reply to every comment. So if you've got something that you want to know, a way to get a hold of me, just reach me there would probably be the best way.
Yeah, well, I think, community's been the big hot topic around the country, lately. And, so I think a lot of these little movements that are going on, we've got them going on around me. We get together and do things, a lot like what you guys do. And I imagine that there's a lot of states out there that are doing a lot the same thing. And by the way, if you're watching and you're doing this in another state and, you're not hiding and you're willing to talk about it, let me know. And I'd love to do another, do a video to talk about, the Oregon Sustainable Living, channel. Yeah. Absolutely would,
No doubt. And I think there's other people doing it. Some of the people and it might be on more of a micro scale too, just them and 3 or 4 neighbors. But I wanted to do it. The thing is, to have enough resources, you've almost got to take the whole state in, and do that. I would love each community to have 2 or 3 doctors. Yeah. And 2 or 3 mechanics, 2 or 3 doctors, maybe a lawyer. I'm still not liking lawyers, but to have a big enough pool of people from specialties to pull from would be great. And have that. And some of the guys, part of the group too, is a lot of these guys still live in subdivisions. A lot of the members live in a subdivision. We've had, I kind of laugh about it. I told one of the guys, I said, we're kind of doing like match for preppers.
Right.
And he laughed about it. And he goes, if you really think about it, he said, you're like the match for preppers in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Because we've matched up several guys that live in a subdivision. Yeah. they're in the group and they come to a meeting and they meet Joe Blow that's got 40 acres, 20 miles from anywhere, and they get to talking. And then the next thing you know, he's saying, hey, if anything ever happens, I'm coming to your place. And they've come up with an agreement. Yeah, that works. And the guy will go help him, every other weekend or something like that, do some stuff on his homestead. He's bringing in, one of the portable buildings to have. It's just a bug out location. So it connects all those people. Hey, if I know something's going down, I've got Joe Blow's place that me and my family are going to, and I've already got supplies there. I've stayed out there several weekends, met him and his wife and his kids, and we all jive and think the same. We've got our ideas mesh, and we can do this.
Yeah, well, I think it's exciting, and I hope a lot of people follow your lead, Jason, and that these kind of communities, begin to pop up, everywhere. So, you guys go over there and check it out. Kentucky Sustainable Living, and make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel. But you can also find them on Freesteading.
Yes,
you can find Jason there, and you can message him there through the private message feature if you choose to, right, Jason?
Yeah, I forgot all about that.
I did too. Imagine that, right?
You're not promoting it real well.
I know, right?
But yeah, I'm on Freesteading, and it's under Kentucky Sustainable Living.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I guess we can just cut it off right there. But you got any parting advice for people about living free and taking a stand and doing the right thing and trying to get their life under control? You got anything you want to say?
Part of it, one of the big things, like I said before, don't worry about what's going on in DC. Don't worry about what's going on, in halfway across the world. There's nothing you and I can do to fix that today. There's nothing, period. Worry about what's going on within 5 to 10 to 20 miles of your place. You can have influence in there. Know your local law enforcement. Know the sheriff and know all the deputies. Be on a first name basis. When you see them out, say, hey, I know you, and you holler at them. Say, hey, Joe, how's it going? Be an influence in your community, and don't freak out. Keep an eye on what's going on worldwide and nationally, but worry more about what's going on 15, 20 miles from your house is the biggest thing. And worry about that, and don't lose sleep about the other crap that's going on.
Yeah.
That, and the hardest part about starting is starting.
Right.
It's cool to watch YouTube videos all the time. Be like, man, that'd be great. I want to do this. I want to do that. Get your ass off the couch and do it.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Yeah. If you want to go get chickens and you live in a subdivision, by God, go buy some freaking chickens and don't ask permission. Throw a chicken coop up and say the hell with it.
Yeah.
So, funny thing, the first time we ever did feeder pigs, one of my buddies called me. He said, I've got like half a dozen piglets over here. He said, do you want a couple? And he's like, they'll be weaned out in about a week. I was like, let me run this by my wife. So I asked her, she goes, absolutely not. We're not getting pigs. And I was like, okay, cool. So 2 days later, she came home and I was putting some fence up. She goes, what are you doing? I was like, oh, the sheep need somewhere to go. And she goes, that's awful low fence for the sheep. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is. And she goes, you're getting pigs, aren't you? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she was like, okay. So I mean, I jumped up and did it. It was fun. It was a fun learning experience having pigs for the first time. And it was good. But she was not super happy about it, but she had fun watching us trying to catch these piglets because they got out and we were catching them with a stinking fishing net.
So your wife was good with the pigs, huh?
Yes, eventually she was good with the pigs. But the funny thing about the pigs is, first time raising pigs, I don't know how much pigs weigh, anything like that. And I'm like, I call the processor, and this is before we were going to butcher our own. I call the processor. He goes, put a 5-gallon bucket by him, and he said, take a picture, and I can tell you how much they weigh. So I set a 5-gallon bucket by him, took a picture, texted it to him. He goes, yeah, they're ready. He said, bring them up here in about a week. And I was like, okay. Load them on the trailer after like 3 hours of getting them on the trailer. Take them up there. We unload them. He looked at me. He goes, damn, them some big pigs. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And I looked over and I said, why are you butchering those babies? He goes, those are market weight. I was like, what's market weight? He goes, like 275, 300. He rolled my two across the scale and they were 450 and 420. and and I was like, oh, they're a little too big. And he goes, nah, it'll be fine. He said, you'll have some long ass bacon though.
Yeah.
So
hey, ain't nothing wrong with bacon.
No, but yeah, he told me, he said the bacon was so long, he said I had to fold it in half to get it in the freezer bags. And I was like, that's cool. But yeah, it was good. I mean, your first home raised stuff that you raised yourself, I'm like, this is good bacon. I mean, the meat was just so much better than what you buy in a store.
Yeah. Well, and regardless of all of that, it was probably empowering too.
Oh yeah, I mean, and our beef that we raise here is not this super high marbled, stuff like you get in a grocery store. But by God, it tastes a lot better than what you get in a grocery store. That's for sure. So, and you know exactly how it was raised, everything it ate. If it had any kind of shots or anything like that, everything that happened to it. And it's like a lot of guys say, it had one bad day is all it had.
Yeah. Yeah, one bad day. Well, I think that's a good place to, kind of cut it off here, Jason. And I appreciate the message of don't pay attention to the blur and what's going on in Washington, and pay attention to what's going on around you. I think that's super solid advice, and I'd back that up, 100%. For the rest of
know what the neighbor kids did last night.
Yeah, right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, go over there and check them out. Help them out in their